Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Airspeed Reads Naruto video. This one's going to be for volume 68 of the manga, which is called Path. So the cover here is an interesting one. It's obviously Naruto putting his hand out, and in relation to what happens in this volume, that is to Obito. And then you see that this is going to address more of Obito, Kakashi, and Rin as well. So, you know, perhaps not the best cover, but it's definitely, nice. So yeah, we cover another 10 chapters. We cover 648 to 657, A Shinobi's Dream, A Shinobi's Will, Those Who Shall Sleep, That Which Fills the Hole, Naruto's Path, I'm Always Watching, I'm Uchiha Obito, Path, The Switch, Uchiha Madara in the Flesh, and that's it. So, yeah, so what we get here is the initial, basically, explanation of what the attack that Naruto and Sasuke are doing together actually is. So, again, only Sage Jutsu can actually work against the Ten Tails, and Naruto has that, but how is Sasuke going to get it? And this is where Yugo being present comes into play. He basically empowers Sasuke's Susanoo with Sage Power, because obviously the curse mark is based on Sage Power, and that's where it comes from. And we just get the idea of Orochimaru is kind of noting that, Sasuke could be the only person to ever surpass Madara, and the second Hokage notes that, Naruto could be the one to surpass the first Hokage. So just, again, further setting up these two characters. But the first Hokage does become, somewhat of a focus here, because there's the whole idea here of everyone's thoughts, their hearts are becoming connected, and so they're kind of getting to see, aspects of people's past. And we get to see some of the first Hokage's past here, in that he's remembering now what, Madara's been talking about, that he wants to achieve his true dream, which is the infinite Tsukiyomi. But all of a sudden we get to see basically the idea of the first Hokage's dream, and we see the first Gokage summit with each of the first, the first Kages from each of the nations, and just the idea that the first Hokage, even though he's the one who basically made up the position of Kage, and the only reason the other nations have this system is because of him, he bows his head to everyone for actually coming. And this is the meeting where they discuss basically the balance of power with the tail beasts, and like who should have them. And we just get the idea that what's happening here is that fundamentally all agree, but the first Kazekage is kind of like, we already have a Biju, we'd actually prefer it if we got land and then money from all of you. And this causes a kind of a big incident, like they all call him crazy for thinking this, and that's kind of overboard, and so on. And basically the first Hokage speaks up and is just like, it's true that we've never gotten along in the past, but what we did to each other to protect our brethren and clans, there perhaps were times we had no other choice. And he basically just says that if we collaborate now, regardless of affiliation, that's his dream for the future. And it's the dream of basically everyone present here on the good guy's side as the current Kages arrive onto the battlefield, as Naruto and Sasuke are fighting. So it's just furthering on the whole idea of the first Hokage inspiring everyone, and that being kind of what gets Sasuke and Naruto going, and from there we proceed. So the next kind of key moment is that Shikamaru is kind of still down, he's still suffering, but we get this idea that Naruto's chakra cloak that's on everyone is also healing as well, and Sakura notes this, that like, please Naruto, leave the healing to me, you focus on the fighting. And it's just noted that by Ino that he's kind of doing this unconsciously, that basically they're feeling his feelings and they know what he's felt. And we get some focus on Shikamaru here, as basically he has his recovery, and he just notes that from the past, when he talked to his father, he says, when I'm with Naruto, he makes me want to walk with him at his side. And that's kind of what's happening on a huge scale here during the war. Everyone is fighting alongside Naruto. And he basically just notes that unlike Lord First, that dumb Naruto doesn't have an adept brother like Lord Second to be his advisor. That's why I need to stick around, so that I can stand next to him when he becomes Hokage. And he basically just says, sorry Pa, I can't be with you on the other side yet, because there's no one more qualified to be Naruto's advisor. And this is basically just the rallying moment, as like Shikamaru is back in play, Tsunade comes over, heals him, and she's very happy that Sakura has basically picked up the slack from her being absent with the healing, and now they have two important healers on the battlefield, as we get just the idea that this is where Tsunade meets her grandfather here, the first Hokage, and the Kages just kind of rally everyone behind them, as you know, the current Raikage just notes that the Hokage like prostrating themselves, but it's an act that relays one's heart and leads to strength and so on. So he's just kind of noting that Naruto did this to him, the first Hokage did in the past. It's like a trait that seems to be with the Hokage, but it also works. We see Gaara kind of catching up with Naruto again. Guy gets fired up again as well. And it's just a big note that the first Hokage even notes that Naruto has kind of helped spur everyone on. As, you know, we get other little moments like basically Sarutobi and Orochimaru are interacting. We see Tsunade and Sakura both activate their 1,000 healings, 100,000 healings jutsu, and they summon basically, what did I say here? They summon a tenth of Katsuyu's actual body from the Shikatsu woods, and this is going to be this huge healing platform for everyone on the battlefield here. So it's a really kind of important thing as the fights are obviously continuing at this point. They do begin to introduce Kakashi back into things, where he's obviously still trapped in the space-time dimension and is kind of fixing up his wounds from his battle with Obito. So he still has to kind of come out. But the result of Obito's actions are that he's basically forced Sasuke and Naruto out of the Susanoo and the chakra kind of cloak again. And he basically just asks them, you know, like, he asks Naruto, why do you still fight? And the importance of this is that Kakashi has realized in his time in the time-space that Obito is doubting himself a bit. He's challenging Naruto so much and is kind of emotionally invested in this fight so much because Naruto is so like him, and so he wants to kind of challenge Naruto to get his answer for like why Naruto goes so far. And basically Naruto just notes that that's my shinobi way, I never go back on my word, and we'll sleep tomorrow dreaming our own dreams, not the one that you want us to dream. And this is where the next big kind of comeback moment happens, where what happens is the Susanoo merges with Naruto's kind of giant chakra Kurama, and we get basically what was the amazing power that Madara used in the past is now being formed by Naruto and Sasuke. And basically how Obito is going to fight this is with the sword that is the Sage of the Six Paths divine sword, the Boko. And he's basically just says he's going to use this to obliterate the world, just like the Sage of Six Paths used it to kind of create the world. And the big attack that Naruto and Sasuke use to combat this is that obviously it's Kurama in Susanoo armor, but also Naruto's classmates kind of basically jump on the tails, and he activates the chakra cloak and basically gives them all a huge Rasengan. And so it's this kind of crazy attack of like Naruto, Sasuke, and their whole kind of class basically doing a huge attack on Obito. And the result of this is that basically Obito is to a degree defeated at this point in a way, in that the Nunoboko actually kind of shatters, what am I showing here? It actually shatters against the sword of Naruto and Sasuke's attack, and basically the result here is that they begin to be able to pull out the chakra from Obito, and this is how they're going to extract the Ten Tails from Obito, so he's not the Ten Tails Jinchuriki anymore. And to fully complete this, they just established that the only connection that Naruto doesn't have with the other tailed beasts at the moment is he doesn't have any One Tails connection, and he doesn't have any Eight Tails connection. So with the help of Gaara connecting with Shukaku again, and obviously Killer Bee, they do manage to grab a hold of basically the chakra to pull it out. As we basically everyone begins to experience Obito's past, all the stuff that he's gone through, and we get to see Obito's emotion basically spread out to everyone. And we just get the idea that the entire shinobi, allied shinobi forces is pulling the chakra out of Obito. And it's this huge moment of just everyone is behind Naruto, and it's the complete opposite, of, I suppose, of the way kind of Obito expected. And we get this kind of really important kind of moment here of just the idea of Obito on his own, and then Naruto has everyone behind him, and just how he's isolated himself, and despite all the despair that's around for Naruto, he still has everyone behind him. Whereas, there's this implication that like Obito lost like one person, and it kind of ruined him when he had these goals that are so identical to Naruto's, and we get the kind of inner world kind of conflict between Naruto and Obito here, as he's basically talks about how, trying to convince him that you are not the second sage of the sixth path, you are Obito Uchiha. And he kind of goes through, there's a lot of talking here, and it's just this idea of like trying to make it out that you once told me that you aren't anyone, you want to be a nobody, you aren't anyone, but you are Obito Uchiha, that you have the same goals as me, and that's what annoys me so much about you. And he points out to him the fact that, along with a lot of this other stuff, that the reason you became the Ten Tails Jinchuriki and have control over it is because you specifically didn't allow the Ten Tails to basically take over your individuality. So to some degree you are holding on to who you are and are lying to yourself. And Naruto is kind of seeing a lot of the past of Rin talking to Obito, and how much he cared about her. And the core of this, in a way, is that Naruto's kind of pointing out that Obito, you're trying to take the easy path, but what I want to do is I want to know how to actually navigate the rugged one, the one where all of this stuff goes wrong. I want to know, to be able to do that. There are no shortcuts to becoming Hokage, and there are no ways out for the ones who become Hokage. Just that there are no shortcuts. And a lot of the key here is just Rin kind of also pointing out that she had such faith in Obito that she basically said that a lot of Obito's early stuff was him basically bragging about, I'm going to be the one who saves the world one day. And ultimately Rin was kind of behind him with a lot of this. And the fact that the current Obito isn't like that is kind of an insult to the memory of Rin. And this is, in a way, a key part of why Obito is beginning to become convinced by Naruto, because he has the him now versus the him then are so different, and that he could still be the person he was from before if he just remembered and embraced everything from his past, instead of treating the deaths of all of his comrades as this kind of reality-breaking moment. Respect the sacrifices that they made and kind of continue on with your goals despite that. That's what Naruto's been doing, and it's the key difference with Obito. It's what he kind of hasn't done up to this point. And eventually everyone manages to pull the power out of Obito, and we see that he acknowledges that he has lost at this point. He kind of falls down and is, kind of has actually been defeated here properly. The tail beasts are kind of separated, which Naruto has just fulfilled his promise, and it's just this big moment of just Obito, now not the Jinchuriki anymore, just kind of notes about Rin and how, at a base level, that's what it was all about, really, for him. And we get the 10 tails all the nine different tail beasts all happy about what's happened. But as Obito's lying in the ground, Sasuke immediately runs over to him to try and finish him off. But this is when Kakashi comes out of the space-time dimension, and he's prepared to finish the job because he's been absent up until this point and hasn't fully, seen what's just happened. But Minato steps in and stops him. And this is a really notable moment here in terms of like what's left of this Team Minato kind of bonding here. And, that Naruto just gave you a lecture, and it's exactly like Kushina used to do a lot. But what really needs to happen in these last moments is for you to be talked to by your friend. And so basically Kakashi takes over from Naruto here in terms of dealing with Obito, and he basically at this point like reveals, I suppose, the truth. And he says, after I lost Rin, the world as I saw it changed. It became a black hell. This world holds no hope. I took Madara's identity and walked the world, but all that did was confirm it further. Even possessing this Sharingan didn't reveal anything to me because there was nothing to see. And Kakashi just notes that, like, actually, all of these paths, all of these futures, whether that be the future I see in Naruto, my direction, your direction. They could all be wrong. No one knows the exact kind of point. And Kakashi just notes that I felt that way once too, because I lost you, I lost Rin, and I lost Minato as well. And he just says he after that point tried his best to see the world with this eye, so the eye that represents so much to Kakashi, coming from his best friend. And he said, I felt that so long as I had your Sharingan in words, I could see the future. And they both note that that's Naruto. And the question comes into play here. What's the difference between me and Naruto? Why do you stick up for him so much? He says, because I can attest that he won't fail as much as you. Because if he starts to trip and stumble, I'll help him. And the question comes in, why would you help him? Because he'd never give up on his dreams or reality. That's the kind of guy he is. And the way he lives his life draws others to him. Folks who want to help him. Folks want to help him if he starts faltering. And that's the difference. That he's formed a large group behind him, whereas Obito went completely on his own. And just this idea is that if comrades that you trust gather around you, hope can take physical form and become visible. That's what I believe Obito. And we get this idea of like Naruto and Sasuke have gone off to actually deal with Madara, the actual Madara who's still alive, to seal him away. If they've defeated the Ten Tails, the only thing left is to defeat Madara, who's still a threat. So one of the ways they're going to do that is that Gaara hopes to do that by using the Grand San Mausoleum with the help of Shukaku. And we get this interesting interaction between, former Jinchuriki and the Tail Beast here, as, Gaara now notes that I'm not ordering you to help me, I'm asking you. If you don't want to, that's fine. But Shukaku just notes that actually Gaara is quite close with Naruto, and he kind of respects Naruto now. And he will participate, in part because of his rivalry with the Nine Tails, and he doesn't want to be outdone. And so that's kind of how Gaara notes to Son Goku and as well as Shukaku, yes, I am acquainted with Naruto, he is my first friend, and they kind of all sort of get behind this, that in a way Gaara has, his friendship is kind of formed in the exact same way as kind of Naruto formed his friendship with the Tail Beasts. Kurama does reveal at this point as well that when the Ten Tails is extracted from a Ten Tails Jinchuriki, they don't die, because the Ghetto statue also possesses some of the life force. So that's why the extraction of Ten Tails hasn't just immediately killed Obito. As they further explain that the Sage of the Six Paths, of course, separating the Ten Tails into the Nine Tailed Beasts didn't kill him, but I suppose slowly left him over time, dying. They just note that. And Obito from here basically just decides that he's going to make up for this in the same way that Nagato made up for what he did. He's going to use the art of Rinne Rebirth to revive everyone that was killed, and this is his only way to kind of redeem himself, that he could live on and atone for his sins, but he says no, that would be too easy, too simple. But this is when, of course, Madara takes over him and uses the Rinne Rebirth to revive himself. And this is the true revival of Madara, the plan that was initially meant to be the plan, properly coming into play here. The key point, though, here is that arguably, Madara should be less powerful now than he was when he was reanimated, because we immediately note that his eyes were part of the kind of Edo Tensei here, that he's technically blind now, but because his actual body has some of Hashirama's cells, he is still extremely powerful and immediately has the advantage over Hashirama here, and basically steals some of his Senjutsu chakra and knows how to use that. And it's this idea of that this is a threat that is now Madara's power plus kind of most of Hashirama's power, and that is almost more powerful in a way than the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. And we just see that he's able to get the advantage over Sasuke. I think they do stop him from they stop Black Zetsu from being able to take the Rinnegan from Obito. In that Obito's still alive, but Black Zetsu is basically going to take control over Obito's body now to fight against our heroes. And they definitely emphasize Black Zetsu a lot towards the end of this volume here. They have this kind of cutaway to Chojuro, it seems like he's killed Black Zetsu, but he kind of sinks into the ground and kind of goes away. And from there, we basically just get the idea that Madara is insanely powerful, and his next task is that he's going to fight the nine-tailed beasts basically on his own blind. But he still does want to get the Rinnegan eyes back himself, so he has like full control, I suppose, so he can become the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. But yeah, that's been volume 68 of the manga. Really, really solid volume, I think. Again, not the best. I think it's very on par with volume 67, in that the stuff with Obito, I think, it depends, I think, on the translation. Like, in the anime, I thought this was a little bit better done, because the dialogue and the exact wording of it was perhaps, I think, came across a little bit better. And as well as that, just the idea that it is a talking scene that ultimately is like the key part of this book. What Naruto and Kakashi, to a degree, say to Obito in terms of turning him are such key moments in the story that, like, it doesn't quite have the impact just it being dialogue in the manga. But it is still a really good moment. I like that they get back to, like, Rin being kind of such a key aspect to kind of what's happening here. And, the key line being, her saying in the past to him, "Go for it, Obito, become Hokage and show me how you'll awesomely save the world. That's another promise." And just this idea of, like, in everything that Obito is doing right now, it's going completely against this promise he made with Rin. And if Rin is the person he cares about the most in the world, why is he not caring about this promise that he's actually breaking with this person that he cares about so much? And it's just this idea of that Naruto's been able to kind of, I suppose, use the ideals, even if his comrades have died, continue their kind of ideals going forward, whereas Obito hasn't. And that is a nice kind of thing to have, that, again, just pointing out the so interesting aspect of a lot of the villains in Naruto, in that they are fundamentally very similar to Naruto when you break them down in terms of some very similar ideals. It's just how they deal with certain challenges along the way, in that Naruto has handled all these challenges very well, but Obito, being so similar to Naruto, it was a reality-breaking moment for him when he lost Rin, and further things along the way kind of changed him, the influence of Madara and so on. Nagato similarly with the death of Yahiko, and it's just this interesting kind of, again, generational kind of type thing of just that there's these archetypes of characters. Of course, we kind of get into it later that to a degree it is this kind of Indra Ashura thing, though maybe not all of these characters are Indra Ashura reincarnations, but just that this type of character has always existed, even going back to a lot of the people in Tsunade's past. Her brother was kind of like Naruto as well, and just how they deal with these kind of challenges along the way. There's other good moments in this volume for sure, in that, like, Gaara and Shikaku interacting a little bit in the background was really good. I liked seeing Obito's past and the idea of, like, how he in a way envisioned himself into the future. If they'd gone back and found him instead of Madara finding him, and he was part of Kakashi's generation properly, maybe he could have become Hokage. And how would things have gone then if, like, his face was up on the Hokage stone monument, and just this alternate path he could have taken if he didn't kind of give in to despair, basically. So yeah, that's my review for volume 68. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the volume as well as my review. But that's been the video for today. Thanks for watching, and bye.